So the purpose of Measure A came as a result of bankruptcy. During bankruptcy, we laid off 100 cops. Many more quit. We had record homicides. We had high crime. And so along came Measure A as the life raft to save us as a city from all of that and make us safe again.
Begin in Stockton, where they held a special election for 2 ballot measures aimed at pulling the city out of bankruptcy and hiring more police officers to combat the growing crime rate. Measure A would raise $280 million over the next 10 years.
They promised in Measure A that they would hire 120 police officers to make us safe again.
Important to remember that there's 2 different measures. What A and B do together is it's about making Stockton safer, about restoring our services, about getting out of bankruptcy, and holding future councils accountable. And I think that's a really important distinction, because Measure B is really the teeth behind Measure A and will help drive those policies that Bob talked about in terms of how will this really be implemented, how will the priorities really be carried forward. Measure B is about accountability and transparency. It's going to drive policies that will be adopted publicly by the council that will hold future councils accountable to the priorities. It's why the council signed Measure B on the ballot. It's our personal commitment to the people who live here. We put our name on Measure B. It's our commitment that we are going to do what we say, and we're going to continue doing it.
So the way this was supposed to break down is that we would get 40 new police officers each year for the next 3 years. And it hasn't happened. We are at 387 now. We should be at 405 last June. We should be at 445 coming this June, and we're not even close. And so it might surprise you, I did not support Measure A because I wanted a restricted tax. And the difference between a restricted tax and the general tax, which is what we got, is that a restricted tax can be tracked. The money has to be spent legally for what it was intended. They can't spend it on anything else. When it goes into the general fund, it can be spent on anything they want to. And it's really difficult for the Oversight and Advisory Committee to track it and what they're spending it on. We've asked for audits, and we're not getting it.
So there has to be some discretion allowed, I think, on the part of the city council and the city manager that follows me. And that's the concept behind the discretionary or the general tax rather than a restricted tax. 4 years from now, who knows what will be thrown at us. There's got to be some discretion.
I was appointed to the Measure A Oversight Advisory Committee in January of 2015, and I am the vice chair of the Measure A Committee. And my job there is to be the watchdog of how the money that comes in on Measure A is to be spent. And it's not being spent the way we want it spent. And it became clear to me that we had no authority to make decisions. And so I'm running for city council because I want to be in a position to make those decisions. I'm not running to undo Measure A and B. The voters decided. Well, I would have preferred it to be a restricted tax. It is what it is. We can't go back and undo that. We need to move forward, and we need to make sure that the money that we receive from the sales tax is spent the way we want it to be spent. 65% is to be spent on public safety, hiring back the 120 police officers over a period of 3 years, and restoring the city services that are necessary, which was the 35%. It's a big deal. We need to make our city safe, and we only do that if we spend the money right. And so I'm running to make sure we have the leadership on the council that's willing to take a leadership role in making sure that city staff follows that policy. So our issue right now, in addition to hiring the 120 police officers is retaining the police officers we currently have. And my background, both in union management, labor relations, puts me in a unique position to be able to solve some of these problems. Keeping our police officers is a big deal. Hiring our police officers is a big deal. That's how we keep our city safe. And I am the only candidate in this race that has over 30 years of resolving conflict and moving forward in a labor relations arena, and I can solve these problems.